Mhm. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Good morning. Our GBC college course has ended their sessions here at Nagari, so back to the regular schedule. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Ramuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavala Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavala Girivaradari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara Shri Radhe. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 26, verse number 37. Evam vida narakaya malaye santir satasa sahasrasa deshu sarveshu cha sarva evadharma Vartino ye kechid ihodita anudita chavani pate paryayena vishanti tataiva dharman vartina ita ratra ihatu punar pavetu ubaya shishabhyam vivasanti. Word for word translation. Evam vidha, of this sort, Naraka, the many hells, Yama Alaye, in the province of Yamaraj, Shanti, are, Satasa, hundreds, Sahasrasa, thousands, Teshu, in those hellish planets, Sarveshu, all, Cha, also, Sarve, all, Eva, indeed, Adharma, Vartina, persons not following the Vedic principles or regulative principles. Persons not following Vedic principles or regulative principles. Ye kichit, whosoever. Iha, here. Uditaha, mentioned. Anuditaha, not mentioned. Cha, and. Avanipate, O king. Paryayena, according to the degree of different kinds of sinful activity. Vishanti, they enter. Tata eva, similarly. Dharma anivartinaha, those who are pious and act according to the regulative principles of Vedic injunctions. Those who are pious and act according to the regulative principles or Vedic injunctions. Ita ratra, elsewhere. Iha, on this planet. Tu, but. Punabhave, in another birth. Te, all of them. Ubaye shishabhyam, by the remainder of the results of piety or vice. Nivashanti, they enter. Translation. My dear King Parikshit, in the province of Yamaraj, there are hundreds and thousands of hellish planets. The impious people I've mentioned, and also those who I have not mentioned, must all enter these various planets according to the degree of their impiety. Those who are pious, however, enter other planetary systems, namely the planets of the demigods. Nevertheless, both the pious and the impious are again brought to earth after the result of their pious and impious acts are exhausted. Report. This corresponds to the beginning of Lord Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita, Tata Dehantara Prapti. Within this material world, one is simply meant to change from one body to another in different planetary systems. Urdvam Gachanti Sattvasta. Those in the mode of goodness are elevated to the heavenly planets. Ado Gachanti Tamasa. Similarly, those too engrossed in ignorance enter the hellish planetary systems. Both of them, however, are subjected to the repetition of birth and death. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that even one who is very pious returns to the earth after his enjoyment in the higher planetary systems is over. Shine punya marte lokam vishanti. Therefore, going from one planet to another does not solve the problems of life. The problems of life will only be solved when one no longer has to accept a material body. This can be possible if one simply becomes Krishna conscious. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Janma karma chame divyam evamyo veti tatvataha takta deham punar janma naitimameti sorjuna. Quote, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. This is the perfection of life and the real solution of life's problems. We should not be eager to go to the higher heavenly planetary systems, nor should we act in such a way that we have to go to the hellish planets. The complete purpose of this material world will be fulfilled when we resume our spiritual identities and go back home, back to Godhead. The very simple method for doing this is prescribed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sarvadharman Prityaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Bhaja. One should be neither pious nor impious. One should be a devotee and surrender to the lotus feet of Krishna. This surrendering process is also very easy. Even a child can perform it. Man mana bhavamad bhakto mam yaji mam namaskuru. One must simply think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One should become Krishna's devotee, worship him, and offer obeisances to him. Thus, one should engage in all kinds. Thus, one should engage all the activities of his life in the service of Lord Krishna. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakya Chakshurmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Shri Rupam Saganat Tam Pitam Tam Sujivam Sarvetam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaganat Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation repeated again. My dear King Parikshit, in the province of Yamraj there are hundreds and thousands of hellish planets. The impious people I have mentioned, and also those I have not mentioned, must all enter these various planets according to the degree of their impiety. Those who are pious, however, enter the planetary systems, namely the planets of the demigods. Nonetheless, both the pious and impious are again brought to earth after the result of their pious or impious acts are exhausted. Okay, so I hope everyone enjoyed this GBC Sangha. I think we all benefited very much. Whether it was for the Mangalartiks or temple programs or the classes on Zoom or just the, having prasadam with such devotees. Yes, it was quite delightful and just was a good reminder to how wonderful the association of devotees is. Okay, so in this verse, or rather more in the purport, where the glories of devotional service are being stated. So recently, our spiritual master, His Holiness Devamrita Swami, was telling us that the key to staying happy, staying motivated at a place like Gita Nagari is to realize the glories of devotional service. Realize what a great opportunity it is, and realize that how valuable devotional service is. And so the fact that one can has such opportunity to be flooded in a flood of devotional service is the greatest benefit. push and forward. Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, so in a verse like today, we're seeing the example that, okay, pious or impious, there are certain results from living pious or impious life. And of course, in today's Kali Yuga, to see pious life is very rare and should definitely be, given credit for. Thank you to all you. Thank you to all the pious people out there. But of course, as we're hearing here, that still you have to return to this earth planet, regardless of even if you live the most pious life. So the Ferris wheel is going around. You might go up, you might go down. Ultimately, you'll have to return back to the material world. So you have to return back to this earth planet. Because this, as I've said before, the earth planet is like the springboard by which one, chooses their next destination. So here, Prabhupada's saying that yes, the goal of life is to know Krishna, and this is, every purport has like that one line that really just kind of sticks in your head for days, weeks, maybe a whole lifetime. So I like this sentence in the purport. This is the perfection of life and the real solution to life's problems. This is the perfection of life and the real solution to life's problems. And then Prabhupada explains that how is this done? This is very easily done. So how can one solve all life's problems? Prabhupada says the very simple method for doing this is prescribed by the Supreme Person of Godhead. Sarvadharma prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Apparently, some Bhakti Shivadar quoted this verse to somebody on the street, and the person just like fainted and became a devotee. Anyways, it's just a side comment. So yeah, so this surrendering to Krishna as the ultimate solution to all life's problems. So how is this going to be done? Yes, of course, you can look more into this definitions of surrender in that verse itself, 1866 of the Gita. Yes, surrender it's a constant thing. It's a constant endeavor in the lives of devotees. As we hear that, the illusory energy is very, very strong, and only by surrendering can one cross over this material world. So I like Vaisheshika Prabhu quotes, I think, Prahlad Maharaj and saying, Prahlad Maharaj is saying that, no one's ever done it before. No, even from the greatest philosophers of all time, greatest non-devotee philosophers, the most talented people, no one's, who out there has been able to conquer repeated birth and death without surrendering to Krishna? So it's actually, no one has. So my point being that it's a constant thing, and Prabhupada said it's easy, but as many of us know, it's not so easy. I guess we're complicated. Prabhupada said it's complicated for the complicated, right? So yeah, so this requires a constant surrender in one's life. And throughout life, yes, there'll be so many obstacles, so many, you know, uh, you know, as one moves throughout life, there are, of course, bodily changes and, things happening in the family and so many things. Um, this material world is a place of anxiety, like it's described it. It's thinking that this world, that you can, not be in anxiety in this world is like thinking you can jump into the ocean and not get wet. It just doesn't work. So things, yes, things will happen throughout life, and there'll be different tests, different challenges, and the devotee has to stay firm in all these things. Like it's explained, the sadhana of Raghunath Das Thakur was like lines on a stone. So it was immovable, can't move lines on a stone. Unshaken, he's just had his sadhana and that's what he's going to perform every day. So, I've heard many times my Guru Maharaj say that sometimes people think, oh, well, life is just getting so intense and let me just kind of take a step back from the chanting for some time. Let me just get a little settled, I just need to, those extra 2 hours a day, I just need to use them to settle this material, so the material problem I'm in, then I'll get back to the chanting. But no, Maharaj is saying actually one should increase one's chanting because the chanting is actually what, as Maharaj also says, let the mantra manage your life. So by chanting, that's how we can sort things out. So yes, so many obstacles will be there in one's life for the aspiring devotee. Like this picture in the books. Maybe the older Bhagavad Gitas, when they had more pictures, and there's this staircase, and the devotee is walking up, and there's like he's going past lust, anger, greed, like as he's walking up the staircase, Radha Krishna at the top of the staircase, and he's being tempted by all these different forces, and then even at the top, I don't know if I'm just misinterpreting. This was like my Brahmachari misinterpretation, but then even when he's at the top, then there's a right below the last stair, there's a beautiful lady there, just ready, just with a garland, like, yes, take a step down, accept this garland, like like how Haridas Thakur was lured by Maya herself, yeah. So yeah, these tests are there all throughout, and it's explained just like a test is good in school because a test forces you to become prepared, or a test shows you that you're maybe not at the level of proficiency that you thought you were at. So then one can use this as a impetus to better oneself. It's like every time I can motivate myself enough to go into the weight room or Gita Nagari gym. It's a small gym, so people don't have to get too excited like they're missing out on much. But go in there and work out a little. It's like the next day, just feel like just like taking a breath, your muscles hurt. So yeah, then you realize, okay, man, I should hit the gym more often. So yeah, the tests are good in Krishna consciousness because they show us, yes, where am I at? But nonetheless, though, we can expect, yes, those tests will be there. And just like that, the staircase, and then there's the lady, holding the garland. And the tests can also come for devotee in very tricky ways, right? Very alluring ways, like and I think of an example from the Shastra. But yeah, it's just like I heard one devotee saying that, Maya knows your weakness. So Maya kind of, works to exploit your weakness. And sometimes that Maya may not be so obvious. Like any devotee that started practicing devotional service after the advent of the internet knows that there's so many things on the internet, right? Oh, book changes, and at so many things. You can find every guru, you can practically find so much information on good or bad. So there's so much things out there that can just throw one off their devotional path. And it's hard because sometimes these things seem so logical, right? Oh yeah, no, this is the right, this in my head, this adds up, that plainly put, I shouldn't surrender. Like rationally, this seems like a good excuse that why I don't need to surrender to Krishna. But interesting enough, what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? He says that there's different places that lust resides, in the mind, the senses, and interesting enough, in the intelligence. So lust even resides in the intelligence. As it's often said that bhakti is state specific, meaning that based on one's consciousness, one perceives the world. So like I remember brought one of my relatives to a Rath Yatra, and I was trying to get them interested in Krishna consciousness. And so I was bringing them, or to try to show, introduce them to all the nice devotees and like that. I hope they, give them lots of prasadam. And then so we ran around to this little display booth where they have the Festival of India has all these poster boards with like different facts and things about the Roth festival, things like. And I remember this relative of mine just read like a few sentences, and I knew they were pretty skeptical and kind of had made lots of kind of joking remarks about like, yeah, what is this Krishna? And so so they're reading, and then they just pinpointed this little part of the poster that was like, I think it was talking about Krishna's wealth or something. And they were like, why is wealth like an opulence? Like, I don't think wealth is an opulence. Something like that. It was so insignificant, but you could see that their consciousness was tainted with pretty much envy of Krishna. And they, because of that envy of Krishna, then their just mind was polluted, and they just pinpoint this little thing that was like, you have to really think hard to how that would deviate you from wanting to be a devotee. Anyway, so yeah, according to one's consciousness, then one sees the world. And because of that, yeah, one has to be very careful, right? One has to be very careful in one's practice of devotional service, which of course is why this guidance is so important. That's, having a spiritual master, having mentors, having devotee friends. Can always look to Ken to straighten me out. Ken walks the hard line and doesn't accept much deviation. So good friends like that, yeah, that will keep you on track, on the path of devotional service. Or someone told me this statement, and it's one of those statements that you just can't forget. They said, before you make a big decision about your life, you should be kind of like in a satisfied state of mind. Like you should be like, your reading should be nice, your japa and sadhana should be good. And in general, you should be in like a jovial, like happy state of mind. Not that you find like, when you're in your deepest valley of sorrow, that's when you choose to make your big decisions of life. That. So, yeah, okay. So we were just graced by Mother Urmila, who came and gave a very nice presentation on her new book called Career Dharma. And yes, it's wonderful. I mean, just say a few words about it and maybe a little how it ties into this. But interesting, they wrote this book on the premise that Prabhupada wanted Varnashram Dharma, and then, career Dharma. So it's talking about the Varnas. And it's amazing, and, she has statistics like 80% of people are dissatisfied in their work. And, she was giving these slide presentations about like what happens when someone with a more artistic mentality, also, what's traditionally referred to as a Sudra, is working in the position of like a administrator, for example. So it's interesting, like all these different problems that come about by one not being engaged in their particular activity. So yeah, 80% of people are dissatisfied in their workplace. And it's amazing because one part of the book is saying that, this actually isn't complete without what she calls celebrating the divine. So having time each day, each week, hopefully each moment, where one is celebrating the divine. Offering sacrifice to Krishna or Vishnu, or pretty much she even recommends, okay, let's just get people to do some type of sacrifice for any of the aspects of Brahman, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. So it's very interesting how she has this whole, she's seeing it as like, this is the ultimate bridge breaching, this Varnashram Dharma, like like connect people to what their nature is, which is actually very significant. I mean, I actually remember the reason I left home, on the trip that eventually led me to the devotees, was because I wanted to know, like, who am I? What is my contribution to the world? So yes, so many people are wondering this, and now she really lays it out. It's very minute details, and you get like a very good understanding of what each varna entails, what their disposition, what the kind of mentality is, the temperament, and what kind of work they do, and how to nourish the work, and all that's very, very comprehensive. And yeah, and realizing that, yeah, okay, not everyone is going to become a full-time devotee and sacrifice 3 hours of the day for a spiritual practice. But if we can get people to, find what their dharma is, be satisfied in that way, and of course, have that offering to the divine, then that's like, right, but that's varnashram dharma. That's creating a material situation which will make it more conducive for people to take to Krishna consciousness. So yeah, very, very wonderful book, Career Dharma. And if anyone's interested, apparently it was like the bestseller on Amazon for a few weeks. So anyways, I think I stopped there. As according to my notes, I kind of exhausted all the points that I wanted to make. One should simply think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Prabhupada says by this, chanting of the Maha Mantra constantly and incessantly, and there's no chance of a fall down. One will always be connected to Krishna. Krishna's name is non-different from him, so it's not a representation of him. It is, when you say Krishna's name, that Krishna is there, personally present. And therefore, by always chanting the holy names, then one can always be connected to Krishna. So, Prabhupada says this so many times, somehow so easy to forget. So I'm just reminding everyone, mainly reminding myself of this need for constant chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Okay, so I'll stop there. If any questions or comments. Yeah, if anyone has anything they'd like to say. Anyone who went to the course that Urmila presented to us, if they have anything they'd like to share about that.
Hare Krishna Dasya Prema Prabhu. Hey, I want to thank you for a nice Bhagavatam class. Made a lot of great points. It's lots to digest there. I like all your points. You mentioned how Maya actually indirectly offers us a service by highlighting for us where our weak areas are. She actually calls our attention to those areas where we are deficient. But actually, the mere awareness of a particular deficiency is obviously does not solve the deficiency, and trying to address a deficiency directly, how would one go about that? there really is for us just one simple process, as you mentioned, just simply chanting Hare Krishna. And in time, all those deficiencies will be eliminated. So tests, you mentioned tests. Maya tests us from time to time. She has the thankless task of keeping anyone from approaching Krishna who is not completely pure. So, as you mentioned, she is aware of all of our deficiencies, and she will exploit them. But her tests serve to strengthen us if we view them in the right light. That speaking of tests, when I was a young student, I had teachers who would periodically present tests, quizzes that were unannounced. So there was no possibility of preparing beforehand, and there was no way of knowing what precisely would be covered in the test. They were referred to as pop quizzes. So we would get these tests. And if you had been diligent in your studies, if you had been doing your homework and reading the assignments in the various textbooks, you would be prepared for that test and you'd do well. If you had been even a little negligent, you'd wind up having problems because it would cover things that you just wouldn't be prepared for. An announced test, you could prepare beforehand. You could cram ahead of the test and do well. But these surprise quizzes, if you were not following the program at every stage, you'd wind up getting caught by various questions that you could not answer. Maya presents us with pop quizzes. She throws surprise tests at us that are unanticipated. We may anticipate on the whole that we can expect there are going to be tests, but precisely what the nature of them will be and when they will take place is not within our purview. So my own experience is that all kinds of tests come along, and sometimes bigger tests, sometimes smaller tests. Some of them can be quite surprising and they can be overwhelming. But if you have not been applying yourself diligently to the routine work of practice of Krishna consciousness, you may fail those tests, particularly the bigger tests. If at every stage you are always applying yourself to the best of your capacity to all of the routine activities of devotional service, you will be well prepared for those tests. Failing the tests is serious because there are repercussions, there are reactions, cascading cycles of cause and effect. One thing leads to another, and failing a test is like you're driving down a highway at a very high rate of speed. Say, I don't know, maybe you're exceeding the speed limit if you're doing, 90 plus miles an hour, and you have a blowout. That's deadly serious. The result will be really catastrophic. So it's like that in devotional service. Sometimes we can suffer terrible blowouts if we are not prepared for the tests that come along, and they will assuredly come. All kinds of tests, and sometimes extremely difficult tests. We can't afford to neglect any detail of our sadhana at any stage, because um, it means that we're going to be less well prepared for those tests when they come. It means that um, we're going to set ourselves up for failures and the concomitant suffering. And it can set up a series of chain reactions. One thing leads to another, and because of one failure, then there's another failure and another. It can become something really serious. So it behooves us, therefore, to try to be as well prepared at every stage, to always apply ourselves very diligently to the process and never be negligent, or as you were describing, putting off the chanting to get your affairs in order, or whatever the case may be. We can't afford to ever do that. It's extremely dangerous, extremely dangerous. Very serious thing. We're in an extremely precarious situation. Life in the material world is very, very dangerous. Srila Prabhupada used to criticize his disciples, saying that we are not sufficiently afraid of Maya. And I think that's very true. Partly because we don't even realize how great the threat is. We have no idea actually what's possible. So Srila Prabhupada is recommending here that one must always simply think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. And of course, we all have heard so many times that Kali Yuga, the only means is by chanting the holy names. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Eva Kevalam. The only way, and that's the reality of that for myself. It's still sinking in. I'm gradually realizing more and more how true that is. There are all kinds of means by which we may try to advance ourselves spiritually, or try to protect ourselves from the onslaught of Maya. And sometimes devotees devise all kinds of mechanisms to try to protect themselves from Maya in various ways. What is becoming more and more apparent to me as my life progresses is that there really is no other effective means. That every other endeavor will not be successful in the long haul. Chanting Hare Krishna is the one thing that affects every necessary change. It's perfect and complete. There are some nice verses. Speaking of there's a similar verse. Let me see if I can find that. Just looking at Jayadvaita Swami's new book, which just arrived at Gita yesterday. We have a bunch of copies for the temple store, and I have a couple of cases for myself. Oh, and by the way, anyone who's interested in this book, it's entitled Srila Prabhupada's Kirtan Standards Handbook. I will, I'll give, anyone who wants, I'll give you a free copy of the book, hard copy. I can't find the verses. Yeah, similar verse found in the Kali Santarna Upanishad says, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Iti so dashakam nam nam kali kalamasanashanam. Nata parantaropaya sarva vedeshu drishyate, which means Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. These 16 names, composed of 32 syllables, are the only means to counteract the evil effects of Kali Yuga. In all the Vedas, it is seen that to cross the ocean of nescience, there is no alternative to this chanting of the holy name. And as I say, perfect and complete. We don't actually require anything else. Just by chanting Hare Krishna, everything is accomplished in one fell swoop. And that's confirmed. There's another nice verse in the Narada Pancharatra, which says, Trayo Veda Sad Angani Chandansi Vividhasura Sarvam Aksharantat Stam Yach Changyad Apivan Mayam Sava Vedanta Surata Samsaranavatarana. And the translation reads, all Vedic rituals, mantras, and understanding are compressed into the 8 words Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. All Vedic rituals, mantras, and understanding are compressed into the 8 words Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Wonderful. Anyway, that's some of my thoughts. Thank you again, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Ru, for just confirming and then just elaborating and sharing your own realizations and experience with such things. Okay, so I believe, so if anyone has anything else, they can speak up now. If not, going once, going twice. Okay. Because today is also the disappearance day of His Grace Jayananda Prabhu. And I was looking at, I don't know, Tarka Prabhu, if you have something you'd like to say about him. You know so much. I mean, if not, I did find a little excerpt, but I think it might be nice if you had some stories about him that you know.
I'm sorry, Prabhu, what was that again?
Would you like to say anything about Jayananda Prabhu, considering that it's his disappearance day?
About Jayananda, we don't have a lot of time, but Jayananda was an extraordinary devotee. Started out in San Francisco, where we also had the first Rath Yatras, and he got very involved in the building of the Rath carts. He was a very, very humble and unassuming sort of personality, but really, really attached to Srila Prabhupada and devotion service. He had no airs about him. He was just extraordinarily humble, but always absorbed in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, and always enthusiastic to engage others in devotional service. He had a tremendous appreciation for prasad. Loved to honor prasad and loved to distribute prasad to others. As everyone knows, he had a big part to play in Rath Yatras all over. I think one of his last big services was assisting in the construction of the Rath cart for the New York Rath Yatra, which was the first big Rath Yatra in New York that went down on Fifth Avenue. And Srila Prabhupada was present and rode on the Roth cart. Fabulous cart was constructed, huge. The wheels were like, I don't know, 8 feet tall or something. A tremendous cart. And Srila Prabhupada was thrilled. But by that time, Jayananda was already quite ill with cancer and tremendous amounts of pain. Nonetheless, he was determined to perform that service. He was a great devotee of Lord Jagannath, and he had a wonderful sense of humor. He joked around quite a bit and occasionally pranked devotees, but he was always a humble servant of everyone. And what else can be said? He was very dear to Srila Prabhupada, of course. Srila Prabhupada displayed lots of affection towards him. And Srila Prabhupada indicated that he went back home. So we accept Jayananda Prabhu as one of ISKCON's early saints. He really was a very special personality. He touched many lives, and everyone who met him was profoundly affected and impressed by him. Many devotees credit him with their own Krishna consciousness. He made many devotees. Pretty special personality. There's a book written about him and lots of articles. One would do well to read up on the life of Jayananda. It's exemplary and extraordinary and remarkable. So that brings us just about to Gita contact. One overtime, but yeah, Jayananda, wonderful personality. Srila Prabhupada instructed that for all Rath Yatras into the future, Jayananda's picture should be prominently displayed on the front of the Rath cart. And so we do that. All of our Rath carts will have Jayananda Prabhu's picture right on the front. It's quite an honor. It's a pretty extraordinary honor. So Srila Prabhupada had very high regards for Jayananda.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Prabhu ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you so much, devotees. Wonderful day. Darshan.